how to make a man run after you. Oh yes, it is still doable, even though we have a harsh dating climate in today's society where men have become spoiled and women have become desperate. But ladies, if you just apply these tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you, you will actually have men begging for your attention. My dear elegant ladies, welcome back to another video. This is a topic that we need to discuss because we have men around us, whether we are in a marriage, in a relationship, or we are single and looking. So I think the tips that I will be sharing with you today will be applicable regardless of your relationship status. And I do want to mention one important thing, because the media keeps writing that I'm a billionaire matchmaker. A lot of people keep thinking that I'm a dating coach. And even though I make videos on the subject of dating men, how to meet men, but also how to keep men, that doesn't mean that I'm a dating coach. It's just a topic that I enjoy talking about that is part of a lifestyle transformation. And ultimately, ladies, lifestyle transformation is what it is that I teach in my elite finishing school. So if you want to join us, come and visit schoolofaffluence.com and begin your transformation today. I did mention that the modern society is not going in a favorable direction for women today. However, ladies, we have to address the very important aspect that men have become very spoiled in our society, and it's thanks to women. So we are not that innocent here. We're not going to be victims here. We are actually responsible to why men are spoiled today. And there is a simple reason for that. Women have become desperate. Women have become very forgiving. Women are violating their own boundaries in order to keep men, in order to satisfy men, in order to just have a family. This becomes problematic because one of the things that we as high caliber women, we cannot afford is to violate our own boundaries, is to start flexing the initial message that we sent out, because majority of us, we are probably playing a little bit hard to get. But the problem is when we're not acting hard to get. So this takes me straight into the first and foremost biggest dating cliche out there. I'm talking about being hard to get. Yes, it's a cliche, but yes, we have to talk about it because you are probably not doing your homework. You are probably still texting him first, calling him first, flexing around with the boundaries and not really being hard to get. And I'm sorry to say, my dear elegant lady, but there is a reason to why you perhaps are not getting the treatment that you are expecting to get treated. It's not only because men are pigs. Actually, majority of men are not pigs. You still have those who are very highly educated that I call high quality men. And those are the actual men that we want to hunt for in these modern days. Because let's face it, I don't have time or energy to start educating a man or start raising a man like if he was a little boy. Quite frankly, high caliber women don't do this, so I don't think you should be doing either. Women do have a tendency of being also impatient. I see it everywhere, so let's not deny the fact that women rather jump on quantity rather than quality. And what I say by that is that sometimes women feel uncomfortable staying in their singleness. They think that, he seems all right. Okay, let me jump this ship. And then off they go. And then she wonders why she's unhappy in this relationship, why things are not working out, and why the man that she chose is a pig. So I don't want any of that for my ladies. I want my ladies to be very selective ladies, to be choosing, to be taking their time, to be really testing the guy, seeing, is he really worth my time? Is he really worth my trust, my love, my energy, my efforts? A man has to prove this. A man has to earn this. When a man earns this and when he knows that it's a challenge, that's when you're being hard to get. You're not being hard to get by just like not answering the phone once or texting him half an hour later instead of immediately. Ladies, that is not being hard to get. Men know those games from far. That is just being stupid. I'm sorry. Ladies, hard to get is a lifestyle. Hard to get is an energy that we transmit. You know that we are actually very lucky in the sense that physically and hormonally, we are actually not built desperately for men. Men are the opposite. They have their testosterone that are messing with their mind quite a lot, meaning that they need to hunt for women. They need to have their testosterone released and satisfied, meaning that they're actually physically desperate, whilst women are not physically desperate. However, it becomes a problem because we become a little bit emotionally desperate, and that is something that we need to start being aware of. Emotionally desperate is the biggest trap we can enter, and how we can stop being emotionally desperate is by sorting out our emotional needs from the ground. I've spoken so much in all my free content and in my Elite Finishing School about the importance of doing the work in therapy, spiritual work, growing you as a human being, working on your mind, filling that emotional gap that seems to be awaking little Mrs. Desperado in you that makes you chase the man instead of having the man chasing you. I know it sounds like a quick fix, but it's not. Becoming emotionally strong as a woman is a long journey, but it has to be started because if you are really neglecting your foundation, your inner world, kind of the person who you really are inside, when you are doing that, that's when you start attracting all these men that we're looking at and we're wondering, like, what is she doing with him? Doesn't she know that she deserves better? Lady, snap out of it. You see, another common thing, and I'm also saying it because I've done it myself, but I managed to sort myself out after a lot of trial and errors. But one thing that I think a lot of us can recognize ourselves in, and that is when we validate ourselves, our worth, through a man. Now, what does that say? That says that we are always going to be emotionally tied to a man to basically validate us. That also means that we always require the presence of a man in our life to be attached to a man through a relationship, through marriage, to be seen as a woman who have made it, a woman who is accomplished. Now, I want you to also be aware that the society is built very sexist. A single woman is still seen as worth less in our society than a woman who is in a relationship or married. Oh, she must be married if she is seen as a woman of respect. Everybody else, not as much. That is sexist, and that is something you need to be aware, because little Mrs. Desperado, she gets affected by these stereotypes in society, by the sexism that we have. But when you become aware of all these things that I'm trying to explain to you, you are actually going to start thinking about this. You might be able to separate yourself from certain stereotypes, from certain imposed beliefs, and you might actually, okay, let me take a step back. Let me not rush into this. Let me not be so desperate. And you start figuring things out in different ways just by using the method of awareness. What makes a man really beg for a woman's attention is when she is being hard to get, but she actually lives it. She doesn't just pretend it and make him like see through the whole game of hers, because men see through those things. They're not stupid, especially not if you are dating high caliber men. Don't you think that they have dealt with a lot of sneaky women and they have learned a lot of the games that women play? Because we play a lot of games, and some of us play them better than others. But this is why, if you want to play your game good, you need to actually live your game, which is why you need to really position yourself as a high caliber woman. In my Elite Finishing School, I talk so much about branding and personal branding and how to position yourself correctly. That is something that I will always be teaching. And it's simply because your actions define your brand. You cannot just dress nicely and you cannot just speak nicely. You need to live what you showcase. You need to do the walk, not just do the talk. And high caliber ladies are the ones on the market that men really beg to have their attention. And how are these ladies? Well, like I said, these ladies are selective. They're hard to get. They live hard to get because they have a life. They're busy. They don't just wait around or jump on every opportunity that the man offers them with. They live elegantly. They look after themselves. They have expensive taste and they're not afraid of showing it. Surely they do it with good taste, with discretion, never being too much, because who likes that? Nobody. And high caliber ladies are always educated and always passionate about something, whether it is their profession or their mission in life or some pet project that they have, or let's say if they have a family and they're homemakers and they're very passionate about that, but they have a passion and they're dedicated to it, and that makes them interesting. Women like this are the hottest women on the market. Women like this in an existing relationship makes the man become in love with them over and over again. The man never grows bored of her if she's always interesting because she's cultivated, she is particular, she's intriguing, she sets boundaries, she knows her worth, she acts as if. But of course, we cannot go away from the fact that men are very visual. So we have many different trends of styles today, of fashion and so on. But I think a lot of the times women forget who we dress for. We dress for ourselves, but we also dress for men. We have to take that into account. Either if it is our partner or if it's somebody that we wish to attract, but the opposite sex, it is important. And it is important that they like the way we look visually. Because if they don't, then our relationship will go down the drain or we're gonna forever stay single. So we have to balance those two aspects out where we dress for ourselves so that we gain that confidence, that kind of pleasure of life that you get when you wear beautiful clothes that you enjoy, but also wear something that the men enjoy, that makes them look at you and be thinking that that is a very feminine, attractive woman. Then skip dressing for other women. That is a waste of time. But unfortunately, majority of women dress for other women mainly. And forget the part of dressing for themselves and dressing for men. And ladies, I've said it so many times on my channel, you do not need to be a conventional beauty to be so successful in the male department. First of all, understand this. There isn't just one formula of appearance that men want. Men really like all kinds of women, believe it or not. And the day you start believing it is the day you are going to become that woman who just is so incredibly confident in herself, and men just get really attracted to her because of that. And of course, because she makes herself look the very best that she can. And I think that's what's really important. Work with what you have, enhance what you have, make that look the very possible best that you can. But add the magic flavor to this recipe, add femininity. So femininity is really what sells. Sex does not sell, vulgarity does not sell. Asking for a fast track where you get sexual attention, that's not the answer either. Feminine attention is what you want. We've spoken in previous videos how women like Monica Bellucci has mastered it to perfection. It's about you adding that little spice to your repertoire, adding that little spice to your flavor. Highlight your feminine traits. If you have a feminine silhouette, highlight that. If you don't have a feminine silhouette, create one with all the tips and tricks that I've also been teaching about in these videos, how you can create a silhouette, a more balanced silhouettes. Then of course you can play around with things like fabrics, with perhaps some showing off certain details but hiding others. Things like that. But ultimately, femininity is an energy, just like being a high caliber woman. But all of these, of course, I teach more in depth in my Elite Finishing School. And ladies, if you are interested in that transformation, visit schoolofaffluence.com. Now I want you to watch the next video, which is all about body language secrets that turn men on. Oh, and you will be learning something very special in that video. So I will see you there.